as an architect who is focused on urban planning and has done several projects, extensive projects across, starting with overseeing large-scale commercial projects such as airports, high-rise towers, and hotels, to residential projects over the last 3 decades. We're so excited to have you here, but maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got interested in architecture and sustainable design.
Yeah, I started my career as a junior architect. So in the first office I joined itself, there were a variety of projects where I could experience how you can approach a project. There are certain projects which we approach very commercially. Like, okay, this is the area you want to make, this is the budget you have to make. Some clients, they come up with a very clear vision. They are so much bothered about the future generation. They are so conscious about, there are certain clients like that, even in other part of the world. So I was based in Middle East, Abu Dhabi. So then I started thinking, they are not even architects, but still they think a lot about, future generations and how we want to preserve. So there was one client like that who came to us with that vision. He wanted to build something really different, which is really conscious about the future generation, water saving, energy conservation, natural materials and all those things. Then that time, LEED certification and all was not that prominent during that time. But still, we started looking at these things, how we can make it more, sustainable and more energy saving. Because Middle East being a very hot climate, they have hot weather, so that energy consumption is very high, because most of the time we depend on air conditions and I think 24 hours we use it. So the right usage of glazing, envelope, and preservation of water usage, all these are very important. And even electricity, it's not like that, it is not that expensive. They have lots of money, but still they started being very conscious about how they can preserve this for future generation also. So then I moved into other type of projects. Then LEED certification, all these green certification became very, very, everyone started looking at certification. But in our office, I was part of ACOM. So ACOM, it's a global organization, and we have almost 5,000 employees. And architecture and design, it is only one. We have everything under one umbrella. So we have sustainability department, we have design department. So I got an opportunity to work in a variety of projects like mega malls, airports, of course, and then again many 5-star hotels and resorts we got involved into. To name, it was Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, all those things. So I got very good exposure to working with operators, which again, created that interest in me to work towards the hospitality. And here I am with the hospitality group, the hospitality chain, which gives a lot of importance to sustainability and sustainable design. So that's about myself.
So at Tamara Leisure Experiences, you've been with us for some time now. Could you talk a little bit about the basic design principles and the building processes that we go through to ensure that our assets, our properties are sustainable, and how we think about it? And what are the principles that are guiding us in that process?
Yeah. What is important to understand about sustainability is it's not an add-on. It has to evolve from the design. So from day one, you have to think about how you can merge sustainability into your design process. So when you add as the later stage, it will be an additional cost. But if you really consider it from the beginning, from the day the consultant is on board, from the day you are refining your design brief, then it becomes part of your design process and construction process. I think all the projects now we are following this approach to make sure it is part of the design process from start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we are designing and writing that brief, we are clearly putting in saying that these are our requirements as an organization and as a client, that this needs to be incorporated into the building which is designed. And then that policy also grows over into purchase as well, right? So when we do our purchase, we have a policy around sustainability that our materials have to be of a certain quality from a certain place, so that is also managed as we are executing on the design which is happening. Do you find that we have any principles which are implemented which are different region by region?
Yes, we do have, because some of our projects, especially the one in Kerala, that's a waterfront development which is based at Muhamma. There we have a very unique design. We make use of the local materials like bamboo, laterite, and even the design, the evolution of design is complementing the region. You have lotus and you have all sort of, it is perfectly complementing the regional characteristics. And, now it is under construction, and we have tried our best to incorporate whatever regional requirements, regional strategies into the design. During construction also, we make sure, because normally this complicated bamboo design, people have a tendency to import from Bali, Indonesia, but we have gone through that process to try with the local techniques, and we are successful in getting because we have recently done the mock-up, and even the result was really promising. And our architect is based in Netherlands, Mauritius, but they were also very surprised to see the skilled work done by our local artisans. So we are really proud, and we are looking forward to complete that building following the same approach. And our target is to attain a platinum LEED certification on that. So we are on the way to that.
Yeah, I think even in terms of, I know this is somewhat after the the building construction, but the landscape design also is extremely region specific. And I know in that project, because the water from the Vemanad Lake always overflows into the land, you have that saline water that comes in. The plants also and all of the landscaping need to be very, very resilient to the water, the amount of water that comes in, and the nature of the water. So that is also something that needs to be really well thought of, in that, when you're looking site by site by site, because landscape really does make up so much of the ambience of a property, of any type of property, really. So I know in that property specifically, especially resorts where landscaping does, become a character of its own, we have to be so particular that the plants that we are putting there are resilient and most of the time local as well, because that will have the most chance of survival in that soil and in that environment.
Yeah, that's we are taking care of that, because we even brought the landscape architect to the region and introduced him to a local agricultural vendor and the local nursery. So all the plants, whatever we include in the landscape design, will be regionally sustainable, and even the other technologies also minimizing the water consumption and energy consumption.
Yeah, I think one of the other interesting things that I saw that we started doing was really looking at the angle at which the sun is passing over our buildings, right? And so how the light passes over is how the heating also needs to be thought of within that building, and how the shading needs to be thought of within that building. So different orientations will have different types of
and the form
heating
of the building, because orientation and form plays an important part in really conserving the energy. You know, so our building forms are like that. Always you have a good projection from the external walls and a long eave. So that form is complementing to this requirement.
And even in our larger buildings as well, we have a project in Bodh Gaya that we're developing as well, right? I mean, you have to look at how the sun is coming into these areas, and particularly if you have like a courtyard or if you have a glazed area, you need to make sure that the light is coming in such a way only at certain times of the day, so that the heat is not too intense, or the energy that you need to cool that area is not so much. So I find that really
even in our buildings, plant in cities, like we have a recent one under construction, that also this sun path diagram is studied, and our enveloped louvers, they move as per the sun direction.
Do you find that our practices are very different from sort of generic or more common practices?
No, it is really different. Especially, it is very different and unique from other architectural practices, especially in India. Because Middle East, yes, there were, as I said, it depends on the client, what they want. Some people come with a vision of this type, so we move accordingly. But here, because here I'm in a different seat. Different seat. I'm from the client side, so we have the control on what we want to do, and Shruti is fully supportive to go with that vision. So she has a clear vision of sustainability and future generations.
You talked a little bit about the artisans that we are working with and the fact that our local artisans are doing such good work. Could you elaborate on some more ways in which our process of design and building is uplifting local economies and local communities?
Yes, because instead of going for all these technologies from outside, we always make sure we make use of the local artisans and the technology which is available here. So the way we approach is like, okay, once we had a design, we had discussion with different groups, different installers who does this work, and then we have given them a chance to showcase their skills on site. So that gave us an opportunity to fix many complicated details, as well as to see the perfection they can really achieve in the real projects. So that was a very good approach we took, which is coming up very well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also, our practices with our contractors, with our laborers, like we're very, very, I would say, again, people-centric, right? I think as an organization, internally, of course, we're very people-centric. We're guest-centric when it comes to, of course, our guests who we're interacting with. But at in projects, we really have to take that responsibility all the way down to the last person, right? Who are our laborers who are working on our projects. And so I think that we are taking safety, health. I know we run health camps, for instance. We have, safety engineers who are there. Like, we really do try to take that very, very seriously, because we want to make sure that people who work with us are having, of course, fulfilling employment, but also that they're healthy and safe as they're doing this work, which is not easy work by any means.
Yeah, I think that what Shruti said just now, that is really communicated to each level of the our team. So everyone is so conscious, and we have a great team working with full dedication to make all this happen. Everyone is so conscious about what they have to achieve and what is our vision.
Yeah,
that is very important. That understanding is clearly communicated to all levels of the organization structure. And we have, what is unique in our company is we are very people oriented, as she said, and there is a kind of togetherness. Everyone cares for each other, and even because that's really reflected from the management, starting from Mr. Shivalal to Shruti. it, that message is clearly transmitted to the lower strata of the organization.
And
that
the
is
leaders, I think, like yourself, Sajjan, who's our senior vice president of projects, and everybody. Like, I think that everyone has been so great about embodying and understanding the values, and then I think as people come into the organization, it's passed on, right? And then it becomes a culture. So thankfully, that foundation was laid really well by the the initial leaders who were there, and particularly in our projects vertical. And I think now the contractors also seem to be far more understanding of us. That's one thing I've seen kind of evolve over the last couple of years. I think initially they were confused by us, and now I think they have a much better sort of understanding of why we place such importance on some of these things.
Yeah, that is another important thing that is really working well, because our a relationship with the contractors and consultants, that they also have a personal touch. Even normally the contractors and the owners, they are on a fighting ground all the time. That is minimal here. Yeah, that's what I found.
So. Have you seen any, do you have any examples of economic benefit that you've seen to local workforces through some of the projects that we've done?
Yes, local workforces, really there's an economical benefit, because if we bring artisans from other place, we have to, we are not sure about their commitment. Once they are relocated, they will be worried about so many other things. But the local artisan, they can fully dedicate to put their 100% to what they do. And, they can easily control the site. Whereas when we really bring people from other, we will create unnecessary issues there.
Yeah. No, and I think particularly India is such a complex nation, right? We have so many different cultures which exist here, and we have to be sensitive, I think. And particularly in projects, again, these are multi-year projects that we do. I don't think there's a single project that we've done which is less than a year and a half or 2 years. And so these projects really require you to integrate with the local community in a seamless way, and there to be an understanding between what's going on site, which is sometimes noisy, sometimes, aggravating to the neighbors, and of course the neighbors themselves, the community, right? And we have to constantly show that we are symbiotic and that we're in it together, and that hopefully that we're doing something which is positive for that region and providing economy and employment and all of that, eventually. But it is hopefully beneficial to that community in a very positive way.
In our projects in Kerala, we are completely satisfying that requirement. We have upcoming projects in Bodh Gaya and Bhutan. We have that Bhutan project is also really unique. Yes. And where we are trying to, completely merge with the Bhutanese architecture, but same time bring some innovation to it. So that one is a challenge, because how we are going to manage the labor force and the artisans there. But we will find a strategy.
And it's a big project.
Yeah, it's a big project. It's
Yeah. So coming to challenges, that's one very specific kind of challenge that you mentioned, but there are challenges with integrating sustainability into a building which is meant to be operated as a hotel, right? One building or several buildings. Could you talk a little bit about what those challenges are?
Yeah, because merging sustainability into design, as I said, if we start from beginning, it becomes a planned practice and we can easily achieve it. But in our case, we have projects, brownfield projects are there. We have, those ones, there are limitations, because we cannot do anything with the orientation or with the envelope. So there is a limitation over there when we take over projects. But when we do projects from scratch, we have full control. And we can achieve, it is not a question of achieving certification, but it is just bringing that good practice into design. So we have to consider sustainability as a good practice. And then I think in our projects now, it has become a good practice. So whether we go for certification or not, we follow the most of the requirements are met.
Yeah, we do. I think we are very keen on ensuring that even our small projects, very small projects to our large projects, the principles are the same. We don't change that, I think. And the intensity with which we examine that building or that project is also very similar. It doesn't really matter if it's small or big or anything of that sort, right? It's sort of across. And typically for certification, we may look at one of the larger projects to do certification. It may be an option. But I do think that I've always believed that sustainability is it stems from a mindset, not even really a practice in a sense. Like the most that you spend in terms of doing sustainability is not, I find that it has to do more with mindset and sort of effort rather than necessarily money even. It's not money, right? And so that, to that point, like, do you think that there is, could you talk a little bit about sort of cost effectiveness, resource optimization, and how you balance all of this, right? Because I find that, most people are so resistant sometimes to the idea of sustainability. And I think it comes from sort of an old way of thinking, or maybe from old information that, sustainable practices are really expensive, which has changed, that has evolved. I mean, things have really changed. So yeah, any thoughts?
Well, because based on our projects already, they have completed projects, or based on that projects, we have already a checklist, and there's a cost indication. Like if we target the points, which is easily achievable and which will add value to the design, we should always target. There are points which will add cost. Mm-hmm. So we have to, if it doesn't add much value to the project, we should avoid those things. Mm-hmm. So there are easily available points which will add value to the design, add value to the customers. So we always tick on that. And now we have a checklist which will apply to most of the projects, the minimum things you should target. Mm-hmm. If some projects we might go for a LEED certification, like Mohama, we are targeting for a platinum. OBTT, we are by Tamara, we have Griha certification. Some projects, we don't go for certification, but we make sure these practices are followed and this checklist is incorporated in design. That the checklist incorporate all the requirements to achieve the sustainability initiative.
We haven't, right now we possibly don't have that many projects which are dealing with biodiversity. The one in Mohama certainly is, where we are in sort of a zone where we're we're right on the lake essentially, right? And we're bringing the lake inside impact. And so the biodiversity quotient is something that we need to be extremely mindful of there. But is there something that you have learned through your experience and how you can be conscious of biodiversity when it comes to the creation of our projects?
Yeah, actually in our projects, any projects you can get, you can really involve this sustainability initiative. It is possible. There is no restriction to that. Some projects it's easier because projects like Mohama, because it's a part of nature, and our design is complementary.
Large piece of land also.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
when
large
you have
piece
more
of
space.
But when you have a very limited land, and you don't have any control of the orientation, you have a road in front of it, so your orientation will follow the entry. So in those plots, when you have smaller plots and a bigger land use, then you can't target this orientation or the shape and all those things. Then we have to look at the other points which might add cost. That's what happens. It varies, but for a natural environment, 100% you can achieve easily.
Do you find that lack of local resources or skill is also a problem or a challenge in some places?
I don't think so. Lack of resources is a problem, because we have in India, you have all, because I have worked in Middle East, so I know 90% of the labor force is from India or Pakistan or other areas, no? So we have all the skilled work here. Only we have to retain them. That is applicable even for the our engineering team everywhere. Everything is the best is available in India. Only we have to retain them. We have to find them, and we have to retain them.
And we have to celebrate them also. I think, right? I think that's the other thing that. I think we try to do, right? We do a lot of recognition for everyone who participates in our process. So we do those, we have vendor meets, right? And we have a couple coming up, in fact, for projects that were recently completed. But I think that whenever I speak to our contractors and our consultants, they're typically saying, you guys are the only ones who have done this. And actually my favorite part of these meets is, so we hand out trophies and certificates and things like that to each of the vendors that are there. And so everybody who has participated in, creating this project, and as well, like our internal team as well, who has directly been a part of that project. But my favorite part of that whole event is when we turn the chairs around. Essentially what we do is we take the front row of seats in the hall and we turn them around, and then all of the people from Tamara sit and face the contractors and the consultants and the vendors, and we take feedback and we take advice and we listen to them. And I think there's so much value addition, because that conversation of having that open conversation, especially after a project, and having the hindsight of being told what we could have done better as clients, I think that's really valuable, right? To just be listening to each other, because this ecosystem certainly needs to evolve and better itself over time. Yeah. So I love that part of our vendor meets that we do.
Yeah, I found it also. It's a great initiative, because I've worked with many companies, but I've never faced this vendor meet. I think the first
recognition,
time, because normally, as I said, client and contractors, they are a different planet people. There'll be a PMC in the middle. Yeah. So PMC is like the mediator. Yeah. So there is always, clients normally don't even talk to the contractors. Right. They go through the PMC. So here, client and PMC, they are like together. Yes. So that really makes a difference and makes really an impact on the way we work, and even for the contractors.
I think so. And I think like what I was saying before about sort of the evolution of how contractors have started to understand us more, I think a lot of that has happened because of these conversations, right? So they understand why we want our project to be more sustainable, and why we say, okay, we want it designed in this way, or we want it done with this material, or we want these laborers to be working on it. I think that makes a difference. I mean, hopefully the idea is that they will also find some best practices out of that process, right? And then they'll be able to implement it in more of their own projects and things like that. So I'm glad that we do it, and
it's really, we do more of that's them. Working out very well.
Yeah, I think
we should do it we are doing for all the projects.
Yeah. How do you think about measurement? That's fine. Okay. There's just 3 more questions. Yeah? Yeah. Cool. Okay, Anna.
I have a cough, which comes only once in a while.
Are you done with the antibiotics?
I'm taking antibiotics.
Oh, still. Okay. No, it's from before, right?
Yeah.
You started, it was from before, right?
Yeah, From last week it's there. I've been traveling from last week, so.
That's true. Yeah, she was in Guruvayur also with me.
Okay, we can continue.
Okay. Ready? Okay. Okay. How do you think about measuring our impact when it comes from a sustainability perspective on the design? Do you have any thoughts on how us, or in general, how the industry should be making those measurements?
I think one way of doing it is, we have like on a certification that we are already doing. Then we should also, as we discussed earlier, these awards, we have to still do a lot because we have so many things, but we have not submitted it for those awards or recognitions. So we have to work more on that. I'm aware of that. I think you have delegated this to me. We'll do that. So then it becomes more, now we are doing things, but it's not very obvious to the society or to the, only people who are dealing with us or who see us in the media, they are aware, like, we are very conscious about sustainability.
So you think spreading the message of
spreading
what
the
we're
message
doing,
is
that's
important.
one of the long-term impacts. I also think that the life of the building is something that we also need to be sort of mindful of, right? Like, how long can our buildings really be resilient, right? So like, I think about Obai Tamara Trivandrum, which is only 2 kilometers from the coastline. And so the way that building needed to be designed was in such a way that it really needed to withstand the coastal winds and the humidity and all of that. And I, to some extent, believe that like the life of our buildings needs to be looked at really carefully to see how can we ensure that the practices that we have in running those buildings over time, and the way, of course, the way that it was initially designed, ensures that the building survives for longer than would typically be happening.
No, normally we have a designed life. For when we design the structural design, there's a designed life. That we follow those criterias, because if we really target to have a long-term building, we have to look at those criterias to be visited.
So maybe something we need to work on more.
Yeah, we have to work.
What do you find are some of the significant outcomes that we've had in terms of either biodiversity preservation or in terms of resource saving? So like, I mean, in terms of environmental savings or economic savings, do you think that there's any significant impact or outcomes that we have seen?
Yeah, on our sites, we have always, we have put those strategies for waste disposal and keeping the environment clean, and don't make any nuisance to the neighbors or to the waterfront. All these things are part of our policy and our construction methodology. So those practices to be strictly followed, which are happening now, but we have to keep that emphasis.
Yeah, it's constant.
Yeah, it has to be constant.
It is constant.
Constantly followed up on that.
Yeah, and I think that finally it's the engineers who are on site who really make the difference, right? I mean, we can do a lot of things in terms of design optimization, and we can write down all of our practices and all of that processes. But finally, the implementation on the site is really what matters, right? If we say that we want scrap material to be handled in a certain way, but then at the end of the day, it's not, and that's because of, something which is happening on site, then that's a problem. So I think outcome has to be finally delivered. And I think it goes back to what you were saying about culture, right? And ensuring that everybody understands that this is not just the policy of the organization, but the value of the organization, right? And it's passed on in terms of practice.
Yeah, it has to start from, as you said, it is all written, but it is followed on site. So we have to ensure that is constantly followed up. And
do you think that hospitality has a specific role to play when it comes to designing for sustainability?
Hospitality, yes.
As an industry?
Yeah, they have a lot, because whatever we deliver or hand over to the hospitality team, they make it sustainable.
Well, I was thinking about it a little differently in terms of like the hospitality design, right? Like in terms of like what you do, right? And how do you do you feel that in any region, like do you feel like the hospitality industry, in the sense of the design and the buildings, they have a role to play when it comes to thinking about sustainability or being at the forefront of pushing more responsible practices in terms of design?
Yes, they have a great role, I think, because they have projects all over, and they play a major role in building industry. So if they follow that practice, you can cover a good percentage of the construction industry.
That's true, actually. I think also one of the other unique things about hotels, in a sense, is that the number of people that experience a hotel building is so much, right?
Yeah.
If you think about
Yeah,
the quantum, like if you have an office, you have the same people who are kind of walking in, walking out every day. In hotels, of course, you have this, the staff that are there, but then you have guests, and the guests are rotating, right? So you have so many different people who are exposed to that building and the design of the building and the efficiency of the building, everything. Like one of the things now that's so important for our buildings in India, for instance, is air quality. And how are we thinking of air quality and making sure that the occupants are, again, safe? And so I find that like the hotel industry really has to be somewhat at the forefront of this because of the quantum of people that are coming through.
Yeah, that's a very good point you have highlighted, because hospitality industry, they have a lot of people moving around. I was looking at the design construction perspective, but you said it right, because
experiences it.
You're spreading that message. You know.
You're spreading the message, and also it's about we all engage with buildings in a different way, right? Like it's either as shelter or as a place where you have an experience. In hotels, you're having food, you're sleeping there. I mean, you're everything, right? There's so many things which are going on, and the operations are complex. It's not that these are straight line, doing one thing type of utilitarian buildings. These are buildings which are doing several different activities. You're hosting weddings and banquets, right? Which will have, thousands of people at a time walking in and out of your building in a day. And so the design really influences the way that people feel and experience that whole thing. And so I think that hotels in that sense have such a large role to play. And as you said, it is a huge part of the industry. The hotel industry is still growing enormously and is on track to grow substantially in India without question. So if we are such a large influencer on development, then we have also a responsibility, I think, to be more conscious of our practices and how we're working. So lastly, how do you feel that we are now looking forward? What do you think are the ways in which we should be looking forward, are looking forward? How do you envision your entire design process when it comes to sustainability here at Tamara Leisure Experiences?
Yeah, I think, our approach is, we have started that already, because from the start of a project, think and keep the sustainable initiative as part of your design objective. So that once you keep that and you make it your policy to convey the same policy to the consultant, to all the stakeholders, this is our objective, this is our goal, then it will be met.
I think there's still a lot of learning for us too, though.
Yeah, there is a lot of.
I think that, and then there's also the matter of the different kinds of projects that we do, right? Sometimes, like you said, smaller projects, we're able to find economic solutions which are responsible, but then we may not be able to apply that. If we have solutions for larger projects, we may not be able to apply that for smaller projects. Are there any innovations that you're excited about right now?
Right now, it's, we are trying to achieve whatever we plan for. New innovations are yet to come.
I think our boats are particularly interesting. The boat project that we're currently working on, where we're working on with boats. I mean, it's the first, we're not constructing buildings, but we're actually creating these environmentally sustainable, efficient boats, which, they're going to be powered by batteries, and they have strong waste management systems.
That will be a very innovative project, innovative and unique. Yeah. Bhutan will also come, very different, unique and sustainable project, Bhutan.
Yeah.
And then based on, the main change we want to make is we have implemented different projects, different places successfully. Now, from learning from those, we want to make our standards very formalized, this is how we do things. That process, that is the main thing now we have to focus and,
I think so.
The brand standards.
The brand standards. And hopefully from that, we're able to also share that with more people outside of us. And as we're also developing an asset-light strategy, we'll hopefully have owners who are looking towards creating more assets which are in line with these standards.
Correct.
And which will be beneficial economically also for them as well as for us. So,
that's an ongoing exercise of, finalizing the brand standards. We have almost done with one brand. The other one
we're working on it.
You're working.
Work in progress as always.
Work in progress. So hopefully we'll be there soon.
I think so. So thank you so much, Mini.
Thank you.
It was lovely having this conversation.
Thank you, Shruti. It was really nice too.
We were thinking that we could do a quick rapid fire with questions for both Mini and Shruti. So I'll just start with the first one, answer in just a few words. Could you describe Tamara's design philosophy in just 3 words?
Sustainable buildings, collaborative work, and great teamwork.
Thoughtful, I think committed, and collaborative.
Shruti, this question's for you. In just a few words, what would you say sustainable hospitality is?
Sustainable hospitality is serving guests with authenticity and ensuring that our entire process of design, build, and service is thought of holistically, and that we're able to deliver our services in a way which is culturally sensitive and sustainable and responsible, and providing just the best time memories to our guests and our employees.
This one's for you, Mini. In just a few words, the future of architecture is?
Future of architecture, if we don't move in the right way, like taking care of this green, preserving nature, or be more aligned with the nature, the future of architecture is going to be in trouble, because we have seen many of the all this vegetation is removed, and we go aggressively building concrete jungles everywhere. That is really upsetting the nature's, that you can see. Recently we have Wayanad, the landslide, then we had flood. All this happens because of this, construction, happening without much planning and very aggressively. So the future of architecture, I hope every client think responsibly and come up with their vision, exactly like Shruti. If every developer, every hospitality sector, or every other sector, they have to, because architects, they have limited choices, because they build for the clients. So if the clients, they don't want, some people, they are very goal oriented. They want to build. I have a plot of 10 by 10. I want to build on 10 by 10. So the architect's choices are limited when it comes to the commercial trend, so it is up to each and every person, and to the developers, to the investors, to the the hospitality sector, other sectors, to come up, be conscious about the nature, and let the architects do the right thing.
This question can be for both of you. How do you measure success in sustainable design?
I think there are 2 ways. One is as I said, you can do it very in an academic manner. You go for certification, you get some platinum level, gold level. That is one way. That is a very theoretical and practice. The other way, if you have as a owner or client or a developer, you can have your measure. You can have a checklist, and then once it is implemented, you have to follow up on by the operations or the team. These things are, monitored correctly. We have done an energy efficient building. How do we know whether it is working? So it's important to monitor and see how is it working, whether it is energy efficient. So we have, for example, we have gone for energy efficient glass. And we have we have installed very water efficient fixtures in the toilet. But if these things are not used correctly, that doesn't make any difference. So it is very important to monitor and make it as part of the operations, to make sure this monitoring and documenting is also there, to make so that will become a lesson for the future, for the next projects.
So I completely agree with what Mini is saying, and I think that really the feedback loop is extremely important, right? So number one, operations needs to be trained on how to use that building truly. Like, how do you operate this building in such a way that it is treated with respect, oftentimes, and how do you ensure that the building does live up to the sort of the expectations of sustainability that has been thought about in designing it. And number two is that, buildings are not sort of relics or statues in a sense, right? They're used. They're kind of living, breathing kind of organisms in a sense that they're constantly evolving, and you have to constantly sort of maintain them, sometimes add to it, remove from it, all of that. And so operations plays a huge role in that. And so the success is measured over time. It cannot be measured over one day. And I think that being mindful, measuring impact, measure your energy consumption, measuring your water consumption, measuring your output. Like if you have solar implementation, being sure that you understand how much are you supposed to receive from that solar implementation versus how much are you getting. All of those things it's an ongoing process, and it is extremely important that the feedback is given back to the original designers so that they can continuously improve and also know when something is not working, which, trust me, it happens. There's a lot of assumptions which are taken in the initial stages. There is a lot of innovation which is happening. There's a lot of theoretical knowledge which is there. It's not always true or implementable or true in terms of execution. And so the feedback loop is extremely important so that we can constantly have improvement in both the design but also in terms of the utilization of that building.
This one's for you, Mini. What is one thing local communities bring to your projects?
If in construction, if you build a confidence with the local community, they can really contribute a lot to the construction. If you don't build that confidence in them, there could be many obstacles during the construction and during the operation also. So it is always promote them, try to participate, try to involve them in whatever possible activities. It could be construction, it could be some other activities, or if we can even, for example, if you have a project like Mohama, there is scope for, artifacts, have, handworks, all these things. If we can bring it to into your projects, they will also feel, just having such an organization or a hotel industry there, it will add value to them and to their future generations also. So it's very important to take them into confidence. This will add value to them and to their children.
In closing, Shruti, what is your dream sustainable project? What are you excited about bringing to the market, and what should people look forward to?
All my projects are my babies, and so I can't pick a favorite. But I do have, a lot of our properties, especially our resorts, the gestation time is extremely long. So there are projects which have been sort of, we've been working on for several years. And so one of those projects, of course, is our Mohama boat project that we've been working on. And that, I had this dream of how can you kind of transform this idea of what a houseboat has been traditionally and what it's meant to the hospitality industry, but how can you transform that into something which is truly green? That's a project that I'm very excited about. There are lots of projects. They're all, we have different things happening at different stages. I'm also excited about partnering with more and more asset owners, right? So we are pursuing this asset light strategy, which means that we are constantly talking to owners of either existing hotels or people who are building hotels. And we are now willing to operate those hotels for them under our brands, primarily Lilac. And I think that's a really exciting process because we're finding a lot of people who are value oriented, similar to us. And it's an amazing thing when you're able to bring a partnership together like that and create value for both the asset owner, but also for us as an organization to be able to showcase what we do in terms of running good business, but running it in a way which is responsible. To be able to take that to more places and to showcase that to more people is something that is also very, very exciting for us.